Hello gamers, and welcome back to another episode of Solospelunking. And I don't want to greet you all actual and current gamers, but I will also want to greet all the new would-be solo RPG gamers, because after this video you will finally be able to sit down and play your first solo RPG session. Because in this video I want to show you how to finally start your first solo RPG session in 8 easy steps. And now you probably go, well, there are already tons of YouTube videos out there that explain that. And you know what? You are absolutely right. If you go on YouTube and you type in how to start solo RPGing or how to solo RPG, there are tons and tons of videos. So why do another one? Well, because I think every video is unique and every video looks at this topic from a slightly different angle. So in this video I will give you my angle on the topic, and also because I think even though YouTube is full of these videos, it is still one of the most frequently asked questions, at least in my subjective opinion, because I didn't really do any actual polls or anything. If you go on Reddit into the solo RPG subreddit, I think there's not one day where there's not a post asking how to actually start and how to do it and whatever. So, and I had actually the idea to run little how to get into solo RPG or general solo RPG workshops on little local cons here in my immediate vicinity. Sadly, so far it didn't come to that, because usually there's some sort of collision with the schedule that I can't make it to these cons. So I figured, well, just make a video about it. So of course this will not be like a real workshop, because in a workshop you sit across each other and it's more like an interactive thing. But still, I want to basically show you how to finally get into solo gaming in 8 easy steps. So if you follow along and you take these steps with me by the end of the week, because it is a process, you might be sitting at your gaming table and you will be playing your first solo RPG session. So I also did a couple of videos about this on my channel already. So if you're now wondering, how does this fit into my previous videos, or if you want to watch all these solo RPG tutorial videos on my channel, in which order should you watch them? This is my suggestion. I would suggest you watch the video how to get into solo gaming now. You already have everything you need first, because it gives you like the basic idea and introduces the basic components. Then you should watch this video, how to finally start your first RPG session in 8 easy steps. And if you then need practical examples, you should watch my tutorial series where I'm using Dungeons and Dragons to basically try to show how actually a non-YouTube solo RPG session might look like or could look like. All right, so enough rambling. Let's get to the meat of the matter. You already see here I prepared some little cards, and to no surprise, so the first step you should take before starting your first solo RPG is, of course, you need to get into the right mindset. So what do I mean by that? Well, first you should think about why you actually want to start solo RPGing. Because it's like if you're at work and you get an assignment and your supervisor comes to you and tells you do this. I think it is a lot easier if he would tell you do this because we need this why and our intention is blah blah blah. So if you basically get a little bigger picture, it is easier for you basically to complete the assignment. And I do not want to think about solo RPG, of course, as an assignment because it's a hobby and it should be fun, but it still helps to just take a moment and think about why you actually want to do it. And maybe, and this is like where this little workshop theme comes in, maybe you even write down 1 or 2 reasons why you want to start solo RPGing. I can give you my top 3 reasons because I also went through this process. So why did I start solo RPGing? It's over a decade ago I was playing RPGs since my very early teens, but solo RPGs I just started maybe like 12 years or so ago, but it's still a long time, but they've been, of course, around longer than that. So what were my 3 reasons? The first reason, and I think a couple of you, if you're already in RPGs in general, not solo RPGs, are in the same situation maybe. The first reason is that I was always the forever GM. So I had a regular group in my teenage years when I was in high school, when we didn't have any worries and we played a lot, and during vacation, spring break, whatever, we played like almost every day in my parents' basement, and it was always me that was the GM and nobody wanted to do it, and I was the forever GM and I never got to play. So of course I also wanted to play. That was the first reason. And the second reason was that after this worryless period of young adulthood ended and life got serious, we went to college and we got jobs and all that stuff. A lot of my friends, they just grew out of it. So, but I didn't. I stuck with it. So solo RPGing or RPGing is and will be my favorite hobby still. And I always wanted to play more than I could. And yeah, like I said, because I moved, my friends moved, they grew out of it. So I still had this urge to play, but I had no one to play with. And my third reason, I also like to switch between systems a lot. I like to try out different systems. I like to adapt different systems to different settings. And if you have a regular game group, I think it's pretty annoying if your GM shows up every 2 weeks and says, all right, so now we're playing a different system. So, and playing solo RPGs gives me the freedom to do this, to explore different role-playing systems, to basically widen my horizon, if you want to call it that. So those are my top 3 reasons. And maybe it doesn't have to be 3. Maybe you also can think of 1 or 2 reasons why you actually want to start solo RPGing. So that would be the first part of step 1, to get into the right mindset. But there's another part to this step. And this is even more important in my opinion. And this is to shut out and get rid of all negative thoughts and doubts. So what do I mean by that? It's been a while ago. I think I already mentioned it on the channel also. I also commented in the thread. So it was also Reddit where a guy said, do you actually, you solo RPGers, do you tell your friends that you do solo RPGing? Because he or she, I don't know, they felt kind of embarrassed and they basically didn't want to talk about it because it's like some nerdy thing maybe, or some people may think it is nerdy because what is solo RPG? And you feel embarrassed. Bullshit. Get rid of all these negative thoughts. I'm Yeah, I'm bold and say that solo RPG has almost become mainstream, if you want to say that, because it is not embarrassing. It has increased in popularity. There are official solo rules for a lot of game systems available by the publishers or already included. I'm looking at you, Dragonbane, for example, or as Man Alone reviewed on his channel, the Walking Dead RPG seems to have pretty good solo rules. If they were not included, there are officially published solo rules available, like Solo Dark or the one Strider mode, or what is it called for Vaesen? I don't know. But yeah, I think solo RPG now has reached a level in popularity where you could almost say it is mainstream, and that every good role-playing system should include solo rules, and there are even systems built from the ground up for solo play. I'm looking at you, Ironsworn or Starforged. And I mean, Trevor Duvall, this guy is a voice actor who did Hollywood movies. I think he did something in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he is doing a solo RPG show. So, and I wouldn't really consider him a nerd or a geek. So, it is, or it has become mainstream, in my opinion. So you don't need to be embarrassed. You can be proud. I mean, it's a creative thing. You explore your creativity. You explore worlds. You're off the street, yeah, if you want to call it that. So it is a great hobby, and it's a great community. So those are the two main things for step one. Get into the right mindset. Think about why you want to solo play, and get rid of all possible negative thoughts and feelings, because it is a great thing to do. All right, now step two. Obviously, if you say, all right, so I want to play a solo RPG, you should take a moment before you actually start to think about the setting and the character and the type of character you want to play. And my recommendation would be, if you're completely new to solo RPGing, and I've said this before as well, to start with only one character at first, or maybe two, because then you have this interesting aspect of player-character interaction within your game as well. So, but you should take a moment and think about the setting you want to play in, the type of character you want to play. And for your very first session, of course, it helps if you constrain yourself a little and limit your options to avoid what I call decision paralysis, and to give yourself some focus. So what do I mean by that? I'll give you a few examples. You shouldn't start your first session, for example, saying, well, I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter. But you should start your first session saying, I'm a warrior, hired as a caravan guard for a 3-day trip to a neighboring village, if you play, for example, in a fantasy scenario. So this, it gives you a clear purpose. You start your first session and you already got your quest. You know what to do. You have a little bit, you're a little bit constrained because you know it'll be a 3-day trip and it'll be to a neighboring village. So, and you're a caravan guard. So you already got a pretty clear picture what your first session might look like, and it helps to, but we get to that, to maybe think about what resources you might need before play. And I'm giving you 3 examples in this video, and I will tell you why in a second. So the first example would be, you're a warrior hired as a caravan guard for a 3-day trip to a neighboring village. The second example is, you're a thief who heard a rumor of an ancient tomb nearby that holds a treasure. And the third example, a non-fantasy example, is you're a space smuggler hired to transport a wanted passenger off a high-security planet. And why do I give you these examples? Because I said at the end of these 8 steps, you will be sitting at your table and starting your first session. Because at the end of the video, I will give you 3 starting prompts. I will basically kick off your session. I will give you 3 starting prompts for those 3 examples that you can work with. That gives you something to go on to give your first session a direction. So that is step number 2. We haven't rolled any dice yet. We were just thinking about the setting and the character. Now, step number 3. Now comes an important part, and that is choose your system, any system. It doesn't have to be a solo system. You should choose something that you are familiar with, if you are an RPG player but haven't played solo RPGs before, or something that interests you. And it doesn't matter if it is light or complex. Every system is soloable. So in the past, I've said if you're completely new and new to RPGs, you stick to a light system, and I stand by that. But if you're not new to RPGs, if you're a veteran Pathfinder GM, you're the forever Pathfinder GM, and you know the setting and the game system in and out. If you look up system mastery in a dictionary, there's a picture of you. Then by all means, play Pathfinder, because the system, it will be easy for you. It'll flow to you. Let the force flow through you, Lou. No, seriously. It doesn't matter if it's complex if you know the system. Yeah. If you're completely new, of course, to RPGs in general, and you start with solo RPGing, I recommend a light system like Microlight 20, for example, Tiny D6, Knave First Edition, Cairn are a few great examples, and most of them are free. But if you have mastered a complex system, use your complex system. It should be a system that where the task resolution mechanics, for example, interests you. So if you go on Reddit and people go like, which system should I use? The 8 times out of 10, the answer is Ironsworn, because it's built for solo play. So I have never played it. Why? Because I do not like powered by the apocalypse systems. I just don't like them. They're not for me. I've tried them in the past, and it is a powered by the apocalypse variant, and I don't like it that most of your checks end with partial successes, and I'm not a friend or fan of all these structured moves, so I will probably never play Ironsworn. I don't care if it's made for solo play. So if you, for example, also do not care about powered by the apocalypse, but everybody tells you play Ironsworn, but you don't really want to, but everybody tells you to, you will probably not have as much fun as choosing a system that you're really interested in, or that you already might have read up on. So that would be my advice. Choose a system that interests you, any system. Any system is soloable. And then, if you're new to the system, you should, before play, read up on the most important rules. And these are usually character creation, task resolution, and combat. And magic is completely optional, and you're completely new, and it's a completely new system. I recommend do not use magic in your first session, at least not like player casting magics. Do not play a spell casting class, because they are usually somewhat more complex and weaker in real life, but that's up to you. And maybe, just maybe, create a little reference sheet, but don't worry about mistakes. As long as you have fun, you are doing it right, and there is no wrong way to play, and there's nobody there to please but you. And you don't really have to make a reference sheet, because for most game systems you can already find them online. So that would be step 3. So far we still haven't rolled any dice. But, and this is a mantra I've learned from Geek Gamers, also a great solo RPG channel, and it has been quoted a couple of times also. She says, everything is playing. So all this preparation, character generation, if this is your mantra, everything is playing, then you're already playing right now. Watching this video, you're playing. Everything's playing. So, but there's no wrong way to play, so choose your system, any system. Now for step number 4, and we are already halfway through. Step 4 is create your character. Now you create your character according to the rules of your chosen system. So this is the first time the dice come into play if it is a roll-up system. Some systems just use point allocation. So just roll up your character. This one should be self-explanatory. But if you play only one character, and this is your first solo session, my advice is to beef up your character a little, so that they can handle solo challenges, and so that your first session does not end in a TPK in the first encounter, because that would be pretty unsatisfactory. Of course, there should be the risk of danger and death, otherwise it wouldn't be playing, just creative writing. But it should be, you should compensate for the lack of a party somewhat. So beef up your character, so increase your survivability maybe by multiplying your hit points. So most systems are balanced towards a party of like 3 or 4 persons or characters, and this is what I would call the balance factor. So if you do not want to adjust all encounters, you just beef up your character so that he is as capable as a party. And there's pretty simple, there are systems out there for that too, and I got a video on that too, like how solo characters can survive party challenges. But a quick and dirty method is just say your character, you get your starting hit points, you just multiply them by 4, and you give him 2 additional actions in a combat, and then your character is almost as good as a party, and you do not have to basically adjust all the encounters, and you can still have somewhat realistic encounters. What I mean by that, so it's probably unrealistic that a single kobold would attack a caravan, but a group of kobolds would. So, and in this case, so that you face believable threats in the game world, but still are able to handle them, you should, beef up your character a little. And this is also important, creating your character should be its own session 0. Do not start playing right away. Just create your character and then take 1 or 2 days. And this is why I'm telling you by the end of the week you will be sitting down and playing. Just take 1 or 2 days to think about your character, to put them mentally into the setting, to just let your character sink in for 1 or 2 days. You will see that your mind will subconsciously work with the upcoming event of solo RPG. And if you have a little break between creating your character and actually starting your first session, I think it'll go more smoothly. So that would be step 4. So we're getting there. Step 5. And this is a very, very important part. Let me see, can you read this? Yes, hopefully. So step 5 is make a date with yourself to play. This one is important. Do not think of solo RPGing as a lesser form of RPG. Treat it as you would a group session, with the same commitment you would have if you have set a date with a group of friends. Pick a day and a time to play. Check your calendar. Write this time and day, or this appointment to play, this date to play, write it in your character as if you would any other appointment. Set time aside for it and make sure you're undisturbed. And for your very first session, I think a realistic time window would be around 1.5 to 2 hours. Longer is unrealistic because you will experience that solo RPGing is more intense and demanding as group play, because you have to shoulder all the responsibilities basically of being a player and also a DM and creating the narrative. But it's also faster than group play because there's no table talk, there's no distractions. It moves at a quicker pace. A scene, maybe like a dialogue that would take like 5 or 10 minutes in a group RPG, is maybe over in an instant with just a sentence in a journal in a solo RPG, because a lot of it happens also in your head. So 2 hours is plenty, 1.5 hours is realistic, but the important part is that you should treat your solo RPG appointment with the same earnestness and importance and seriousness as you would treat a group play date. So I can't stress this enough. Make a date with yourself to play. Make time for it. And step 6. It's getting closer. Step 6 now. Gather additional supplies and resources. So this is why I said think about the setting you want to play in. Constrain yourself. Give yourself a clear goal from the beginning. And think about what might happen during this adventure if you use miniatures. What kind of enemies you could or might encounter. Maybe you look at an appropriate encounter table, maybe gather your miniatures or tokens in advance. Think about what kind of oracle you want to use. And this is why I said you should use or watch the other video first, where I go into these things, oracles, what are random idea generators. So think about what kind of oracle you want to use, what kind of random idea generator you want to use. Get these resources out, maybe look them over, familiarize yourself with them. And this is also important, and I can't stress this enough. Limit yourself to only 1 or 2 additional supplements, generative resources. Because for your first session, you do not need 5 different books of random tables. 1 is enough. And you also do not need 25 NPC generators. Just one simple one. A simple D6 yes/no oracle with advantage, disadvantage, and some sort of method to inject random events is absolutely enough for your first session. So gather what you need in advance, put it within easy reach, prepare your play area in advance. This is step 6. And now we're getting there. Step 7. Get ready to play. What do I mean by that? The time has come. Your scheduled play date and time is there. Sit down in your prepared play area. Get rid of all distractions. Get rid of your phone. Do it make it in silent mode, flip it over. Get rid of a tablet or the internet. For your first session, I highly suggest and strongly recommend to keep it analog. Real paper, dice, tokens, and maps. Why? Because this is the authentic RPG feel. Because then, at least this is all my opinion, obviously, then I think it feels like actually playing a role-playing game. I mean, I read a lot of comments where it goes like, yeah, it is so comfortable. I got it all in whatever Obsidian and I just press a button and it gives me the result. It tells me if I passed the check or not. It does all the calculations. But then I do not feel like I'm playing a game. I'm pressing a button. I want to feel the game. I want to feel the dice in my hands. I want to hear them in the dice cup. I want to add my modifiers together. I want to have this feeling of actually playing a game, because this is what gives me this satisfaction. Otherwise, I could play a video game. Of course, your mileage may vary, but I think, or I would bet, that your first session is more intense, enjoyable, and feels more like a traditional RPG if you keep it analog with paper, dice, tokens, and maps. So get ready to play. Sit down in your prepared play area. Get rid of all your distractions. Take a deep breath and then start in medias res. Now we're getting there. So what do I mean with start in medias res? Of course, start in the middle of the action. We already determined that it is a good idea to think about what your first session will be about. And I said at the beginning or in the middle of the video that I will give you some starting prompts, and I will in a second. But first, some general things. Start in medias res, and you probably heard about the 3 pillars of RPGing: exploration, social interaction, and combat. Keep that in mind and try to incorporate one of these pillars into every scene, maybe even 2. And so if you have followed along with me, you are sitting in your prepared play area now. You got your character, you have thought about what you want to play, and now for those 3 examples I'll give you 3 starting prompts. So now I'm going to kick you off onto your first session, and then it is on to you. So let's say you're playing the Caravan Guard. This is your prompt. You have traveled for half a day on the road, and so far it has been uneventful. As the time of day approaches early afternoon, you come across an obstacle. The road ahead is blocked by a fallen tree. That's it. You're there in the scene. You're the Caravan Guard. It's a 3-day trip. First day, there's a tree blocking the road. So where do you go from there? I'll give you some possible questions that you might ask the Oracle, or some things you might consider. Is the path deliberately blocked, or is it a natural occurrence, like because of a storm or something? Is it possible to go around? How does the area around the trail look? Is it like deep underbrush where the cart can't go through? Or can it go through, but then maybe a wheel of the cart breaks? So is there a danger to the caravan? Is it possible to clear the path? Do you have the tools needed on hand? If it's deliberately blocked, is there an ambush happening? Or is it still there from an ambush that happened in the past and you are safe for now? I don't know. This is for you to to find out. So this is your prompt. Work with it. All right, but let's say you play the thief. This is your prompt. You don't know if you can trust the source, but there is no harm in checking, since it is not far. While gambling in a tavern last night, you overheard a conversation between adventurers. They spoke of a tomb that they have discovered, not far, about a day's travel to the north. They want to prepare an expedition to see what riches they can find. Well, not much if you have a say in it, because you will beat them to it. All right, this is your prompt. You roughly know what it's about. There's a tomb, treasure. Maybe it hasn't been discovered by other people so far, and there's like a race. Maybe you need to beat these adventurers to it. There's a rivalry. Maybe they encounter you in the tomb. How will they react? So here we also have different angles. We have a little bit of exploration, overland travel. You have to get there. It might be a little dungeon crawl. So that is your thief prompt. So you got this information. Think about what you want to do with it. And finally, the space smuggler. If you want to play in a space opera setting, you sit in a secluded corner booth in a seedy and dimly lit cantina in the underbelly of a large city. Your contact here has hooked you up with a job, a simple charter. A person needs fast and discreet transportation of this planet, without any authority involvement. You don't know more than that, but your contact gave you a detailed description of your would-be passenger and told them to meet you here. You have the entrance in view as a person enters that matches the description. All right, this is your prompt. So now obviously this might start with some social interaction. Maybe you need to negotiate the fee. You need to determine some details about this character. What character is it? Why does he need to leave? Or they or she or whatever. So that is your prompt. You're sitting there in this dimly lit cantina. You got a clear goal, passenger, and it is a high security planet because was the example I gave you. So these are 3 prompts, and this is what I mean. Start in medias res. In the middle of the action, the first scene should give you something to do. Do not start your first solo RPG session with, I wake up in my tavern room. There gotta be some pointers, some opportunities for you to interact with the world in your first scene. Yeah, so if you followed me along, you should be sitting at your prepared play area right now and play your first solo RPG session. And I wish you a lot of fun with that, and I wish you good luck. And thanks for tuning in. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. And as always, stay safe and stay healthy. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.